Hello, everyone. Welcome again to my YouTube channel. This episode is the 26th installment in my program, Social Change. How and when will it come true? This episode will continue our discussion of the concept of justice, which is among the most essential components of human transformation for social change to take place in world societies. For this episode, the title I have given is Not Charity Can Stop Poverty. Charles Richard Hensman, author of the well known book Rich Against Poor, has stated exactly what every one of us will find without reason to deny, that we live in an era in which scientifically, politically, and sociologically poverty is an anachronism. A crucial question to ask is, whose fault was it? To this, there are two almost equally plausible guesses. First, it did not seem to be a deliberate intention of the poor. And second, neither could it have been a single handed manipulation of the rich. The reason for what is correct answer to that question very well suggests that we unfasten a thread of history with which to connect a choice of what will be right. That right must have the pointer to our present day need of what is to be thought of as the proper solution to existing problems. These in particular are illiteracy and low literacy and their concomitants, such as poverty, drug addiction, prostitution, crime, etc., etc., etc. Because we can only draw out the correct plan for what will tomorrow's situation for us must have to be by first understanding the implications of today's problems. Professor Charles M. McInnes, in his famous book entitled History, Man's March Through Time, tells us of the long travel of the human race through so many, open quote, turns in the road, with many a backward streaming curve, close quotation. He records of so much enclosed in quotations human frailties like open quote jealousy, ambition, greed, sloth, and cowardice to have caused the weakening of even the great states in past times. They had fallen, according to McInnes, open quote, an easy prey to the barbarian invader, close quotation. Professor McInnes has observed, though, that some civilizations were able to preserve for the later ages what they had known about social and political wisdom, religion, and culture. But he believes that a civilization could have totally lost its splendors, which only archaeologists could uncover if they would ever care. For the cultural realism of our time, a consensus of all of society has to be reached that will be for our common good. We need translate into action what the Mackinesian contention holds as the open quote point where the road divides, close quotation, and where there can be no longer any other turning or curving except for the society to take that way towards the right direction. With the choice of what is right, he says, we shall have gained insights into the outstanding actualities of the growing population in continuous change. By then, we must be fully aware of social responsibilities guiding us to make use of all the resources and the proper human capability. In the words of Professor McInnes, open quotation, to move forward into a better, kindlier world where man can banish famine and conquer or reduce disease to such an extent that myriads of people need no longer live in constant fear. Close quotation. Of course, we are not to say that by the whims of nonsensical visions, for example, as to Philippine situations and in Philippine jurisprudence, we go for the promulgation of a national statute to make all Philippine inhabitants equally wealth holders and individually free from poverty. That will be as though we were concocting a national ordinance, for example, in the case of Philippine labor's wage rates, which simply commands Philippine entrepreneurs to hand out fertilization funds to all Philippine workers. And the ordinance also requires all other Philippine riches makers to allocate monies for all the Philippine poor as a means of making the country's inhabitants live, whether they work or not. In specific example, concerning the industrialists, that is as if we are having Senor Don Mangdato now unilaterally ordered to give out money to poor Jan, whether the latter is deserving or not. Yet, that will be insulting poor Jan himself and eradicating outright both the money bags and mother goose that lays the golden eggs, without whom he, poor Jan, or any of his companions may even yet become more destitute as to himself and as to all the rest, or as to society. Senor Don Mangdato has all the money in the bank, in the big bank world, a business wizard that he is, yet he is too sensible to be letting all clever souls play on good tricks or pure profiteering and reason making. His fellow financial tycoons are no different. They too are in possession of big boxes of payroll money, all being made available for releases to deserving wage payers. Poor John, on the other hand, has never been contented all these years, receiving a slave pay hardly letting him make both ends meet. Hearing his name mentioned as one of the unskilled worker, recipients of a combination of alms and inflated wage pay, he would only get frozen in shame. Yet pride and a sense of moral values will make him walk straight and erect, chin up, hands stretched forward, proudly clutching at the paychecks, if they were merited by whatever technical service Senor Don Mangdato might have hired him for. Mangdato and company are eagerly waiting to act rightly between now and realization era when they start paying payroll funds on time. They know that a new breed of well-enlightened servicemen are coming up. They will be the people who can work productively through their hands cannot be moved with eyes and minds blindfolded. In our next episode, that will be our 27th installment, we shall continue discussing the concept of justice as among the very essential components of human transformation for social change. If you enjoyed viewing my program, I'd like to invite you to please click the like button, and for those who have not placed their subscriptions yet, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me conclude this 26th episode with these enriching messages from God's precious Word. Colossians chapter 4 verse 1. I am reading from the Today's English Version. It says here, Masters, be fair and just in the way you treat your slaves. Remember that you too have a master in heaven. Here's another one. It's in Proverbs chapter 14 verse 31. Again, I'm reading from the Today's English Version. If you oppress poor people, you insult the God who made them. But kindness shown to the poor is an act of worship. And here's a third. Proverbs chapter 22, verses 22 to 23. This time, I'm reading from the New International Version. Do not exploit the poor because they are poor, and do not crush the needy in court, for the Lord will take up their case and will plunder those who plunder them. Thank you, my friends. Let's meet again in our next episode.